Sora is being deprecated. This is from the Sora official app. We're saying goodbye to the Sora app. To everyone who created with Sora, shared it, and built community around it, thank you. What you made with Sora mattered, and we know this news is disappointing. We'll share more soon, including timelines for the app and API and details on preserving your work, the Sora team. So Sora was released in America, Japan, I think Korea, and a handful of other countries. Don't think it didn't get to most of Europe, it didn't get to the UK, and there were workarounds. I put together a very popular guide, which a lot of people used because people at the time really wanted to get access to Sora. I can't find that guide now, but after that initial buzz, which happened for a week or two, everything kind of settled down. There was this frenzy to get a Sora code initially, just to get in the door so you could produce video using Sora. That died down in less than 2 weeks, and Sora has been kind of limping on since then. They are pulling the plug on the Sora app before it even launched widely across the world. Now, this is speculative, but this is probably part of OpenAI's decision to focus on what they need to do in order to prepare for their IPO. So we know from Fujisimo, so this was from a few days ago, OpenAI's Fujisimo told staff last week that the company could not afford to be distracted by side quests as Anthropic gained steam in the enterprise and the coding market. Said company executives are actively looking at areas to deprioritize. I think they're going to be going through and slashing and burning all of the parts of ChatGPT that don't make sense anymore. I actually put out a video yesterday saying, who's still using ChatGPT and what are you using it for? So for me personally, I've been using ChatGPT because it was the default. It was what I reached for first if I needed to ask a quick question. However, the answers and the work that I get done and the personal questions I ask as well, I get better results from Claude. So increasingly, I've just moved everything from ChatGPT over to Claude. So I don't really know why I'm paying for ChatGPT anymore. So some people say, oh, well, you can do images. Yep, you can do voice mode. The voice mode is very good, much better than Claude's. You have access to shopping. Never really used it personally. We've got the agent mode, which isn't very good. We have, oh, no, we don't. There's a lot of extra functionality, which they've released and hasn't really taken off for the most part. So the image maker, for example, ChatGPT image maker is based on DALL-E. It's fine. It's not as good as Nano Banana though. So why would you use the ChatGPT image maker when you can use Nano Banana? Much better. Same with Sora. Why would you use Sora? And people weren't using Sora when you could use one of the Chinese models, which do video generation much better, much cheaper, much more accessible. You can do it at scale, better API, etc. There was no reason for Sora to exist. And I think they're going to be going through their stack. They're going to be going through the apps. Like, who uses the apps? I don't know anyone who actually uses these. They're going to be going through these various features and probably killing or deprioritizing an awful lot of them based on what we're hearing from inside of OpenAI. The reason behind this is they need to make money. It's very crude, and they're looking at data like this. So this is consumer subscriptions on the left-hand side. You'll see that ChatGPT has a large revenue coming from consumer subscriptions. This is the $20 a month subscription. They've got over $5 billion. It's a lot of money, a huge amount of money, whereas Anthropic do not focus there. Anthropic don't particularly care about consumer subscriptions. They actually lose money on their $20 a month and even the $100 a month. That's not where they want their customers. They want their customers here in API revenue. So API is when you connect directly to the model. When you are building a piece of software or you are coding in some way, you can connect into the API and buy tokens directly. There's a lot more money there, and it's a lot more consistent because it's coming from businesses, it's coming from enterprises. You're not having to deal with fickle consumers who get mad every time you change something. You're not having to deal with, I think OpenAI has 900 million plus users. That's a lot of overhead. That is a lot of people to deal with. That is a very large, not very valuable customer base. Whereas instead, you can have a much smaller customer base who is giving you a lot more money, like Anthropic. Anthropic has about 30 or 40 million users compared to 900 million over ChatGPT. But Anthropic are making more money on their API, and Anthropic's revenues are not that far behind OpenAI's, even though they're a much smaller user base. So I think that OpenAI are looking at this. They're looking at the fact that Anthropic's running a lot leaner, but are able to make equivalent amounts of money. It's less. OpenAI are making 12, Anthropic's making 5. That's a bit higher now. and thinking we need to get in on the API market, we need to focus on business, we need to focus on enterprises and deprioritize things that are flashy, things that are viral, things that are cool that don't make us any money, like Sora. Sora was probably hemorrhaging them money because video generation is a lot more expensive than text generation. So I think what we're going to start seeing is a shift to focusing on the fundamentals, focusing on text and focusing on coding. That's where the money is. That's where the better business is. And if they are trying to streamline themselves by getting rid of these side quests, that's the direction that they need to go in. Whether they can beat Anthropic at that game, I'm not sure, but they have the brand recognition. They are still the default. So I think they're doing a pivot into this other area. This was not necessarily good for consumers because, one, they're going to add advertising to their free platform to subsidize this part of the market. And two, we're going to have less fun toys. So these are great things like Pulse is interesting. Sora, the image generator, these are fun things for consumers to use. It leads to viral moments and OpenAI always being in the news, but they're costing them lots of money and not necessarily generating any profits. I think we're going to see less of that and more focus on the core models and on the coding applications as well. Expect it to be a little less interesting, but more profitable for OpenAI moving forward. There are a number of ramifications of Sora being removed. The first is the Disney deal. If you remember from late last year, Disney and OpenAI got into a deal. Basically, Disney were going to give OpenAI $1 billion in exchange for an equity stake, and they were going to allow their characters to be used in Sora. So we were seeing the beginnings of a bit like a Fortnite setup where you have a platform like Sora or like Fortnite, and various companies will license their characters into your platform, and then you'll share the profits somehow. OpenAI, because they're shutting down Sora, this Disney $1 billion investment has been dropped as well because it is predicated entirely on Sora. Disney, which had inked a major pact for Sora, said it will continue to engage with AI platforms to find new ways to meet fans where they are, but we are still interested in artificial intelligence. So this is, if you are an AI video generator, if you're Google, we should narrow that down. If you are a US-based AI video generator, namely Google, this is very exciting. I assume that the Google team are on the telephones to Disney right now trying to work something out, trying to salvage what they can from this deal. So here we go. OpenAI said it would discontinue Sora, the generative AI video creation app it launched last year, without providing a reason for its decision. It's costing too much and nobody uses it. We're saying goodbye to Sora. To everyone who created with Sora, shared it, built community around it, thank you. What you made with Sora mattered, and we know this news is disappointing. OpenAI said in a statement on Tuesday, we will share more soon, including timelines for the app and API and details on preserving your work. I did not respond to requests for additional info. The announcement comes just 3 months after Disney inked a deal with OpenAI. Under the 3-year licensing agreement, Sora would have been able to generate user-prompted videos from more than 200 masked, animated, or creature characters from Disney. So masked as in superheroes, because they own Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. Oh, it's from Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. Sora and ChatGPT images were to generate fan-inspired videos with Disney's licensed characters in early 2026. That didn't happen, interestingly, with Disney Plus adding a curated selection of Sora-generated videos. So this was the idea that you could generate user content and then you could have it on like a TikTok-like app inside of Disney Plus. This was, I said at the time, quite a good deal, or the good idea on the side of Disney, because what the networks and filmmakers like Disney, they were losing attention. Kids, adults, find it harder and harder to sit down and watch a 1.5 hour long film, a 2-hour film. And increasingly, these people are spending more of their daily hours on their telephone looking at short form video. That was not open to Disney, not open to the other networks. So I thought this was a good deal because this allows them to control the means of production so that their fans can create user-generated content with Captain America and Moana and The Mandalorian inside of their videos in a safe space. So people can create this stuff unlicensed, but then they can do terrible things with those characters as well. So what Disney was buying into was the ability to have an ecosystem where people could generate content using the likenesses and do it all above board with proper moderation. Those short form videos would be able to go into a short form video platform. Still think this as Disney pushing into short form video. The only way for them to do that feasibly is to do it with artificial intelligence that they guardrail and control. So I think they're going to be looking for another partner to do this with. Google is probably the one that makes sense. I would have said it would be Apple because of the Apple Pixar and therefore the Apple Pixar Disney connections, but Apple don't have the models for this. Apple do, however, have deals with Google. Gemini is going into Siri. So I wonder if there's something that's going to be connected here. I think with Disney saying that they are continuing to engage with AI platforms to find new ways to meet fans where they are, I think they'll be talking to Google. Because the alternatives are Chinese platforms. I just don't see Disney licensing their characters to a Chinese video generation platform. Disney has now ended its partnership with OpenAI, which included plans for the media conglomerate to take a $1 billion stake in the AI company led by Sam Altman. So I saw people, social media posts saying, well, this is good because this means Disney won't control OpenAI. What are you talking about? They were going to take a $1 billion stake. That's relatively small. That's a small part of OpenAI. The fact that they were taking equity was interesting, but it is not a large, meaningful amount. A Disney rep said in a statement to Variety, as the nascent AI field advances rapidly, we respect OpenAI's decision to exit the video generation business and shift its priorities elsewhere. We appreciate the constructive collaboration between our teams and what we learned from it, and we will continue to engage with AI platforms to find new ways to meet fans where they are while responsibly embracing new technologies that respect IP and the rights of creators. So we want to be in on this. We want to make sure our IP and our licensing is being respected because we are ultimately an intellectual property company and this AI stuff is an existential threat to us. So we might as well get in bed with them and do this on our own terms. That's what I'm reading between the lines here. The second iteration of OpenAI's Sora, launched in September, generated stunningly realistic-looking videos and raised alarms in Hollywood, given the Sora 2 opt-out model requiring IP owners to proactively flag that they wanted their copyrighted works excluded from the system. Now, that's not quite right. So the first week that Sora 2 came out, or the first few days, they basically let you do whatever you want. They went buck wild, so you could generate Mickey Mouse stamping on Captain America. You could go mad. I think they did that specifically so they got a viral moment so that Sora videos would be shared all over the world. It worked. It was a stunning launch. They did really, really well. And then they pulled back on it a few days later. That's a model that we see a lot with artificial intelligence, especially in video and especially in images, where they will release a model with no guardrails, get that viral moment where people be like, oh my God, this is the best model ever. You can do anything you want with it. And then lock it down again. I think that was part of the rollout plan. In November, Japanese content trade group Coda, whose members include animation house Studio Ghibli, who are not big fans of AI, issued a letter to OpenAI demanding the AI company stop using their content to train. That is hilarious that it took 3 months, September, October, November. It took them 3 months to send out a letter. And the fact that this Disney deal was penned late last year and they were meant to be releasing stuff early 2026, it shows you what happens when old school companies like Disney, Studio Ghibli, Coda here, get into deals with new AI companies. The new AI companies can ship much faster. So the fact that this deal was being inked and still hasn't led to anything 6 months later, I imagine, is because the Disney lawyers and the Disney going through all the Disney processes was taking a very long time, longer than we can deal with in AI. I actually want to talk about that later, about the amount that this is what Anthropic have released, creative Claude, over the last 2 months, compared to the amount that OpenAI are putting out. OpenAI aren't shipping very much. They've slowed right down. I want to have a look at why that is. OpenAI had provided a preview of Sora, which uses a text-to-video module, in February 2024 as rubbish, before releasing the first public version in December of that year. The standalone Sora app was released in September 2025. With the shutdown of the Sora app, ChatGPT will also no longer generate videos based on text prompts. They're also removing it from the API. So anybody who has built a video generation business using the API, you're going to have to go and find another model. That said, the other models are better, so you probably already moved off. I don't personally know anyone who's built a business using Sora. Other generative AI video platforms will remain in service, some of which Disney and other Hollywood studios have accused of copyright infringement. Shortly before it announced the pact with OpenAI, Disney sent Google a cease and desist demand, alleging the internet giant was engaging in copyright infringement on a massive scale, using AI models and services to commercially exploit and distribute infringing images and videos. Google subsequently removed AI-generated videos of IP identified by Disney. It was mainly Star Wars stuff. I think this will age poorly because I think Disney and Google will now cut a deal. Because Disney want in on this. Disney know that AI is a threat to them. Disney also want a short-form video platform. They want to meet their younger consumers where they are. That is not feature-length movies. That is not in the cinema. They've moved into TV with Disney Plus, but still a huge amount of the attention budget that people have is spent on short-form video. So I think Disney need to get in on that, and AI is the way they do that. So I wouldn't be that surprised if we see a deal with Google soon. That came after Disney sent cease and desist letters to Meta and Character AI, as well as lawsuits Disney filed together with NBC Universal and Warner Brothers against Midjourney and Minimax. So the people making money here are the lawyers. China's ByteDance, the creators of TikTok, incurred a spate of legal threats from studios including Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Sony, Netflix with Seeddance. In response, promised to implement additional safeguards as we work to prevent the unauthorized use of intellectual property and likenesses by users. This is a losing battle for the IP owners. I fully expect them to fight it, and they should, to push back the tide as much as possible. But eventually, what will likely happen is what we saw with text content, with the New York Times, Reddit, and other text-based providers of data. They were all used in training these models, in text-based models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. Absolutely, they were all scraped in. The publishers, so New York Times, Reddit, Washington Post, etc., cut deals with the AI companies. The AI companies follow a don't ask for permission, beg for forgiveness model, where they will train on the data, knowing that they can make so much money from it later that they'll just be able to make settlements with the publishing companies. We'll see exactly the same thing happening. I think Disney is smart enough to know the writing's on the wall, so you threaten, you send these cease and desist letters, and then you cut deals. As they did with OpenAI, they'll be cutting a deal with Google very shortly, whilst probably continuing to send legal threats to the Chinese companies, because I don't think there's room for them to license to ByteDance. Although, we'll see. That would be a very interesting shift. I apologise for all adverts on this. I do have ad block in place. It is not working enough. Very frustrating. This is also why we're not coming to websites, by the way, publishers, because this is heinous and it makes it really hard to read your content. And it makes me want to go and get this information on Claude or on ChatGPT, because look at this. Absolute mess. Absolute mess. Greedy, 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 greedy. Right, I'm just hopping over to some questions. Is Claude's ambassador program good? Let's have a look into it, because that is something I was looking at. So I'm about to move to Cyprus in a couple of weeks, and I was looking to see if they have an ambassador in Cyprus. It feels a bit weird though, because I'm not actually Cypriot. I do have an audience, so I can help to actually get it off the ground. So I was looking for someone else in Cyprus to start this up with. So the Claude Community Ambassadors: build and lead the Claude community in your city. Host local events, bring builders together, and partner with Anthropic to shape the future of Claude. So Nikki's asking, is the program good? I am not an ambassador. I was going to apply, but you're going to be doing the work. So you're the one who's going to set up the meetup. You're going to set up and bring together people, and they'll give you some support. I don't think it's monetary. Applications: complete the application, tell us about your background, your experience, and why you want to build the community. We'll review every application. Qualified candidates are invited to interview, and then onboarding, sign our ambassador agreement, join the private Slack, and start planning your first event. So they will give you event sponsorship, API credits. That's awesome. So you can give API credits to your members. Swag, like the hat, and resources are provided to you at no cost. So you can get some event sponsorship. I imagine you can use that for the cost of the space and the setup, but I don't think you get paid for it per se. This is more of a community outreach thing. Do I need to be a professional developer? No. You should have meaningful experience with Claude or Codework and a track record of community involvement. Do I need to live in a specific location? The program is global and we actively prioritize geographic diversity. Multiple ambassadors can operate in the same city. Will I receive compensation? Doesn't include direct payment. Benefits include sponsorship, API credits, networking, swag, and recognition. The API credits are probably the big one there. Even if you can get yourself a Claude Max subscription from this, worthwhile. How long does membership last? Ongoing, as long as you're hosting events and staying engaged. If circumstances change, You can step away and reapply when you're ready. Can I be an ambassador for other companies? Yes, in most cases. We ask that you're not also an ambassador for a company whose core business competes with Anthropic. Don't be an OpenAI ambassador and you should be fine. If unsure, mention it in your application and we'll follow up. Can I talk about being an ambassador publicly? Yes, we encourage you to share it on your social media. Nikki, I don't know where you're based, but it might be worth applying. I'm a Claude fanboy. I've been using Claude for the last couple of years, and the more people I get onto Claude, the more they realize that, oh, wow, AI is really powerful. You can do loads of stuff with this. I kind of do this unofficially anyway, so I was going to apply for Cyprus, Nicosia, which is where I'm moving shortly, but I haven't done it yet. Do tell me if you apply. I built by myself app for trades in Romania. I discover you on Spotify. Very cool. Sora had a moment. It had that viral moment because of that week where they took off the guardrails and they allowed you to make videos of Sam Altman, which I thought was very funny. That was a genius marketing move. The team behind the marketing and behind the launch of Sora, flawless, absolutely knocked it out of the park. But I think after that initial honeymoon, when people were like, okay, what now? That, plus the fact that the Chinese models that came subsequently were better. The Chinese labs kept pushing better and better video models that were increasingly more impressive, and Sora didn't really change. Plus, they didn't make access global, so a lot of people still couldn't use it, so that was a frustration. So I think they did a great launch and then kind of fumbled it afterwards, but it's just not part of their plan, it looks like. So again, Fiji Simo has told them to stop getting distracted by side quests and to focus on the core business of OpenAI, which we think is going to be more and more in API revenue, selling to businesses, selling to developers, selling to enterprise. That is where the steady money is. It is not in making silly AI slop videos. It is in API credits. Very dull, and much more profitable. And if you're preparing for an IPO, an initial public offering, that's what you need to show. You need to show you've got a business model that's going to work, not, hey, cool, we can make awesome viral videos that people share for a couple of weeks and then forget about. So I think Fiji's doing exactly the right thing. This is on TikTok, anyone who's watching on YouTube and has no idea what I'm talking about. Modern Dreamhouse says, I never even got Sora 2 in the UK. Yeah. So they didn't even release it in the UK. I don't think Europe got it either. There were ways to get into it. I managed to access it from here using a VPN and an invite code, but it was a pain. For about a month after the launch, my inbox was blowing up with people saying, sir, give me a Sora code. Like, I don't have any. I got 5 codes and I had maybe 500 people asking me for a code, but you had to also VPN as well. It was a pain to get into. So yeah, they never really went wide with it. The other thing I wanted to look at is OpenAI shopping. So this was released, God, I can't even remember. When was it released? They released last year buying capabilities. OpenAI's plans to make ChatGPT into an e-commerce hub aren't panning out, at least not yet. In an announcement on Tuesday, the company revealed it is pivoting away from a recently launched feature that lets users buy items directly from the chatbot's interface. I had an email about this. They send me pre-release previews. I skimmed it and it didn't seem very interesting, but let's have a look at it. OpenAI originally launched buying capabilities in ChatGPT last year, and positioning itself as a shopping assistant. If you click on this, shopping research, we can do shopping research here. I found it very limited, and I'll talk about why. That could connect consumers to relevant vendors. A feature called Instant Checkout launched in September and encouraged users to talk with the chatbot about what they were looking to buy, and much like a traditional e-commerce site, add products to a checkout cart within ChatGPT. The items were then purchased from the vendors, but ChatGPT acted as a portal for the purchases. It's a good idea because a lot of purchase decisions will be shifted to artificial intelligence. Google has a really good advantage here in that they have Google Shopping and they have all of the vendors indexed already. So they're in a great position for this. However, Instant Checkout has not been a huge success. We found that the initial version of Instant Checkout did not offer the level of flexibility that we aspire to provide. So allowing merchants to use their own checkout experiences while we focus on efforts on product discovery. The company explained in a blog post, OpenAI clarified to TechCrunch that merchants would still have the option of incorporating the feature for the time being through apps within ChatGPT. Apps is another feature that was launched with great fanfare and I do not see people using. So the App Store is here on the left. They used to actually hide the App Store here in more, but at least they brought it out on the left. I personally don't use them. Tell me if you do in chat, but I don't find them handy. An OpenAI spokesperson said that the company would be deprioritizing the development of instant checkout as a standalone feature, and that it planned to prioritize the development of product discovery for consumers instead. OpenAI would continue to support a variety of checkout paths, including through merchants' own websites. Now, the problem I had with this, let's do an example. I'll use my mic. I want to set up a live streaming rig for my Osmo Pocket 3, I think it is, that connects to my telephone, has supplementary battery packs, and allows me to live stream from the Osmo to my telephone using a Wi-Fi mesh or an independent router, goes to TikTok. I also need it in a cage so I can hold everything easily and with wire controls. Can you help me with working out a shopping list for that? Okay, I'm going to put that into shopping research. I tried to do this the other day with this exact setup. The problem I ran into was it didn't give me Amazon listings. I'm not a massive Amazon fan. I'm not saying we should use Amazon, but what happened is I asked for these various different items and it gave me 6 or 7 different vendors. So I could get the cage to hold my phone from one place. I could get the handle grips from another. I could get the battery packs from another. All of these items were also available on Amazon and cheaper on Amazon. So it gave me all of this research, but in the end, the research was useless because I then just had to go to Amazon to buy it. I understand that's probably because ChatGPT do not have a Amazon deal and they don't want to send people over to Amazon. I get that, but it makes the functionality less useful. When it's giving me third-party vendors, not very cheap. Some of them were in America and they had to ship to me. It gave me a much less convenient route to buying the things that I needed to buy. This was nearly £1,000 worth of gear. Like if it gave me a list and it said, here's your shopping basket, click and you can purchase, I would have spent £1,000. GPT presumably would have taken a cut by processing it, 2 to 3%. So that's easy money for them. But the experience was too clunky and it gave me too many options from too many places, which just sent me to Amazon. Okay, cool. You've done the research for me. Now I'm not going to pay you because what you're pushing me to is not a optimal solution. So let's see if it gives me that again. There we go. It's viewed 23 products. So it's done the research. This is awesome. This part's great. So it says you need to get this metal cage, camera cage, Pocket 3. Awesome. Let's see if it gives me Amazon now. Small rig. Yes, 100%. I want all of this stuff. But let's click on one of these. If I click on the small rig, there we go. It's sending me to smallrigreseller.com and it is $20. Let's chuck that into Amazon and see how much that comes out as. Again, this is not me saying you should use Amazon. There we go. So it's $15 on Amazon. So it's cheaper on Amazon. Plus, more importantly, I'd be able to get all of the pieces in one place. Whereas this is going to be 10 plus. How much is this? DJI battery handle, $75. It's telling me to go to BH Photos. That's an American website. And it's $75. 100% sure I can get that either from the DJI shop here in London or Amazon. So it's $75. Okay, that's the same price. But you see what I mean? It's done the research for me. That's absolutely fine. But when it comes to the shopping experience, it makes no sense. It's sending me in all the wrong directions. And it's sending me to newer, small rig reseller, B&H Photos, GLInet.us. Let's see if it's sending me to a few more. B&H Photos, okay, at least I can get 2 from there and another one from GLI. So it's sending me to 5 or 6 different vendors instead of 1. And the prices are not necessarily going to be best. That's because they haven't linked up with Amazon. So for me, the fact that they don't have connection with the world's largest e-commerce seller makes it less useful. Now, all Amazon need to do is create a chatbot which allows me to do all of this and then buy it all on Amazon, and they're going to make an obscene amount of money. I know they have Rufus, but Rufus is a bit crap. Amazon, if you're watching, you know what to do. You just need to create a report like this that has all the Amazon listings in it and then bundle it into a cart for me so I can press a button. Also, an alternative here for you sitting at home is you can create a shopping assistant, something that basically pulls from ChatGPT or from Claude. It does all the research like this, it provides this report, but then it finds Amazon links and it uses your Amazon affiliate or your Amazon referral link and you take a cut of each sale. And I think the cut on things like electronics is quite high. Off this bundle of items, which is, I don't know, $500, you'd probably make $50 or something like that. But that would be a really good little business, a shopping assistant. But yeah, for me, the shopping didn't make any sense. And it seems like they are adjusting it. OpenAI's new plan for merchants is to create their own apps in ChatGPT, which then would route users to checkout experiences at the merchant's respective website. Again, a bit pointless. A source noted that ChatGPT users simply weren't using the chatbot for actually helping them make purchases. I wonder why. A study from October that looked at referral traffic from ChatGPT found that e-commerce sites were not making much money from ChatGPT users. This is a shame because this is a huge potential monetization route for any artificial intelligence. They could make a lot of money because there are different stages when you are buying something. Early on, there's an awareness stage where you don't necessarily even know you want something, but advertising will show you information about it and you'll be like, oh yes, I do need to buy a replica lightsaber. So we have awareness, then we have informational. Which replica lightsaber do I want to buy? And you're starting to do research and comparisons. And then you're coming down to transactional, which is, okay, I'm ready to buy a lightsaber. ChatGPT can help you through the informational and the transactional really fast. It can help you get to, okay, this is the lightsaber that I want to buy, much more rapidly than searching around on Google. There's a powerful use of artificial intelligence. They just need to bring it home by fixing the ability to purchase. Anyway, so they are redoing their e-com system. This links back to the internal scuttlebutt that we're getting from OpenAI, that they are being told to stop being distracted by side quests. I think everything's being slashed and burned. Any project that is not helpful, not going to help them with this IPO, that's not going to help them get to profitability, is going to be deprioritized. And that's including Sora. It looks like they are making some big shifts in the shopping department. I think that OpenAI right now, it's going to be fairly chaotic. Stop doing side quests is the most devastating thing a CEO can say to a room full of researchers. Translation: we've been losing and the vibes era is over. So if you are an AI researcher, if you are pushing the boundaries of what this tool can do, if you're building interesting harnesses, you're working out how we can help humanity with this kind of stuff, being told, no, stop that shit, we're focusing on profitability, that's heartbreaking for these people who are builders, for these people who are researchers, who just want to tinker and create cool stuff. They're being told by their CEO, absolutely not, cut that crap out, we need to make some money. We need to get some API revenues coming in and we need to start becoming profitable. Yeah, I imagine there's going to be a fair amount of dissatisfaction at OpenAI. I imagine we'll see some people leaving. We do not see people leaving Anthropic. I just need to point that out. And I think this is part of the reason. This is every Claude launch since the beginning of 2026. I'll read the list quickly. Claude Cowork launched January 2026, a few weeks after OpenClaw. So they saw the success of OpenClaw and spun up Claude Cowork in 2 weeks using Claude Code. Opus 4.6 PowerPoint integration, which is great, and Excel integration, which is extremely good. Cowork plugins, Claude Code security, Claude Code remote control, bit buggy, but kind of cool. Scheduled tasks in Cowork, amazing. Basically starting to build out an OpenClaw ecosystem. Connectors made available in the free plan. They started to beef up free because lots of people were fleeing from OpenAI and ChatGPT because of the Pentagon deal, Anthropic standing up to the Pentagon. So lots of people, 2.5, 3 million people came over from OpenAI to Anthropic. So they made sure that they got a bit more of a soft landing. So connectors available in free, Claude memory in free. They created an importation device for the free users. Claude Marketplace launched. Claude.com Ambassadors launched in March. Code review for Claude Code wiped out a whole industry. Claude skills for Excel and slides, really cool. Charts and diagrams visualization mode. If you say show me, it will draw up visualizations, interactive graphics. 1 million context window. It went from 200,000 to 1 million context window, which means your chats can be a lot larger. They didn't charge anymore for that. It's on by default. That is a huge step change and it kind of went unnoticed. Dispatch for Claude Cowork, that allows you to use your telephone to talk to your cowork on your computer, like OpenClaw. Claude Code channels, again, allows you to use your telephone to use Discord, Slack, Telegram, etc. to talk to Claude Code, again, like OpenClaw. Cowork projects, and yesterday, Claude computer use, the ability to give Claude access to your whole computer so it can click around and it can do things for you. So whilst the teams at OpenAI are being told, stop building all of these side projects, the engineers over at Anthropic are just going for it, absolutely going for it. And this is just the last 2 months. And this is why pretty much all of my presentations have been about Anthropic recently, because if you come over to OpenAI and what they're releasing, I'm just not seeing that much. So their pinned post was from 20 days ago, is GPT 5.4. 20 days ago in AI is a long time. So for example, in that time, Anthropic have released memory, marketplace, ambassadors, code review, skills, visualizations, 1 million context window, dispatch, channels, heroic projects, and computer use. Yesterday, they added a search bar in ChatGPT. I mean, yeah, it's cool. We've been asking for it for ages. So I'll show you what it looks like. Whoops, Daisy. They have a little library thing on the left-hand side, so you can more easily find past chats. Really useful. Is it mind-blowing? So it's got all my screenshots I've been uploading. Is that a mind-blowing feature that's going to change how we work? No. It's kind of cool, though. Codex for students, that was cool. They gave $100 free credit for Codex users. Yeah, sure. But if you go through what they've been releasing over the last month, it's not much. They're not cooking, whereas Anthropic are absolutely blowing it out of the park. The best thing that OpenAI have released recently has been Codex. The Codex app is fantastic, really good. They have one team at least who are knocking it out of the park. They've built a fantastic app, and with 5.4 or 5.3 Codex, it is an absolute beast. But apart from that, I don't really know what they're working on. It'll be interesting to see what happens with ChatGPT moving forward. Thoughts on OpenClaw versus Cowork dispatch channels? I keep covering this because it's a really exciting topic. What happened back in December with the release of Claude Bot, and then January it really blew up, was the realization that we're moving from an AI that we chat to, go back and forward, we copy its responses, we go and work on that, it gives us a to-do list, whatever. So it was mainly chatting. For the last couple of years, that's how we've used AIs. We are now moving into a period where AIs actually go and do stuff for us. Ethan Mollick talked about the 4 big breakthroughs in AI. First one was GPT 3.5. That was the first public, like, oh, wow, these things are cool. GPT-4 was the next one, about 6 months later, which was when we realized the AIs were actually quite good. 3.5 was a rushed release. 4 was like, oh shit, there might be something to this. A year later, we had the reasoning models, 3.03 or 0.1. 0.1 was the first one, which used chain of thought and other techniques to break down and deal with much larger problems. That was only a year ago, in March 2025, that we got reasoning models. Absolutely wild. The 4th breakthrough, according to Ethan Mollick, was in December 2025, which is agentic models, or agentic tools starting to work. So we had Claude Bot, which later became OpenClaw, and then 2 weeks later, after OpenClaw blew up, we got Cowork. Cowork is basically OpenClaw for adults. I love OpenClaw. I think it's fantastic, but it's very, very risky. There's a lot of things that you need to do to make OpenClaw safe for yourself. There's a guy called Shadow, who's one of the maintainers of the OpenClaw project, who said, if you can't understand how to run a command line, this is far too dangerous of a project for you to use safely. They were literally saying, go away. If you're not comfortable with a command line, if you're not comfortable with security hardening, if you aren't comfortable setting up a virtual machine or a VPS, then maybe sit this one out because it's going to be too risky. We had a bunch of API keys that were stolen. We had horror stories like that Meta safety researcher. She had an OpenClaw which wiped out her inbox, deleted everything. So we have these horror stories. At the time I said, look, sit this one out, wait a month. One of the big labs will come out with something that is pretty much the same thing, but it's going to be a lot safer for you to use. And that is what Anthropic have been doing with Cowork. So all of these upgrades have been feeding into this Cowork system. The ability to talk to Cowork and to talk to code using dispatch, channels, and remote control is freeing us from our computer and allowing us to work from elsewhere. The fact that they added yesterday the ability to give Claude basically a Mac Mini or whatever computer you have, and for it to control the computer, they're moving it closer to what OpenClaw is, but within the walled garden of the Anthropic system, so you get the additional security. That means what you're getting is less powerful, but much safer. So you are trading off power, but you are getting additional safety. For people who like to tinker, who need the maximum power, who are happy to play around with OpenClaw, make sure it's secure, keep up to date with what the new releases are, what the vulnerabilities are. If you love that kind of stuff, use OpenClaw. If you just want an assistant that does the job for you and you toggle it on with a couple of button presses, Claude Cowork and Claude Code in particular. There are other ones. There's Perplexity Computer. I don't personally see the point of it. I guess you could argue it's like Cowork with computer use, but it's multimodal, so you can use different models, whereas with Cowork you are locked into using the Claude models. Personally, I use Claude models for all of my main work anyway, so I'm fine being locked in with Claude. And then there's Manus's agent, which doesn't really stack up against the other ones, in my opinion. So I think what Claude are doing is listing everything that made OpenClaw awesome and blasting out every single feature that we need. So I'm sure we'll see the ability for it to activate itself every half an hour, every 10 minutes or so to check on what it should be doing and whether it should be proactively reaching out or pushing forward a project. I'm sure we'll have that very soon because they can look at what made OpenClaw popular. They can look at what made OpenClaw pop off and become the most popular, successful open source project of all time. And they can put them on a whiteboard and go through them one at a time using their big team of engineers and their unlimited usage of Claude Code, which allows them to do this, just to ship. Every single day we have something new. So for me, if I was a betting man, I would be betting on Claude, putting together something really interesting. OpenAI are still kind of in the race because they have hired Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw. He's working on something for them, presumably a ChatGPT version of OpenClaw. We haven't seen anything, which worries me a bit, because whilst he's working in secret, the Claude team are shipping. And some of it's a bit rubbish, like remote control, but at least we can tell them on Twitter, we can say, hey, remote control is crap. And the Claude team's like, yeah, we know, we'll fix it, sorry. Whereas if you were building in secret, whatever ChatGPT are building with Peter Steinberger, you're not going to get that same level of feedback from your actual users. So I'm very bullish on Claude right now. Claude is presumably more profitable due to their rate. So the majority of revenues from Claude come from API revenue, and that will be at a higher profit margin than the consumer subscriptions for sure. It's a much more sustainable business. You also know you're going to get the money, which is nice when you're running a business because you lock enterprises and teams into contracts. Whereas with consumer, when ChatGPT pissed people off, like they did by taking the Pentagon contract, they hopped in and took some additional Pentagon contracts. They already had some when Anthropic refused to cross some red lines. That led to, we think, about 3-4 million people leaving ChatGPT. So that hurts the consumer subscriptions. So consumer is less profitable, high server costs because you're having to serve a huge amount of people, and low profit margin. So it's not a particularly attractive business to be in. Whereas Anthropic said early on, we're not interested in that. We don't want people on our free accounts. We're going to make sure the limit's really low. We don't really want people on our $20 a month account. It's a way for people to see how powerful Claude is, but we want them on $100. We want them on $200 a month. We want them on the API. That's where we make our money. They have made their lower cost plans not very attractive because that is not their focus. They want you in to see how powerful Claude is and then to escalate up to ideally using the API. So building with Claude Code, building products, because that's where the money is for them. I like Claude, but can't afford more than €20 a month. You hit the limit fast. That's on purpose. For the next week, they have double usage on Claude, and then it's going to get worse. That is entirely on purpose because they don't want individual consumers. They want the API revenue. The AI are moving in that direction too. AI, whilst eyeing Anthropic's API and enterprise markets, I think ChatGPT will move in a similar direction where they will be leaning more on the Codex team, because again, Codex is fantastic. It's a really good model and a really good harness and app. I think we'll probably see OpenAI become less consumer friendly. We've had a good couple of years of fun toys, loads of usage, really good free accounts, really good low cost $20 a month accounts. I think those days are probably gone because they're going to be tightening their belt buckles and trying to get in on this other market, which is the API, where the money is, unfortunately. Has anyone else been getting API errors with Claude Cowork? Check their status. Elevated errors on Claude Opus 4.6. So apparently it got fixed. They're investigating the issue at 9:30 a.m. and then they fixed it apparently at 10:30 a.m. Over the last couple of weeks, Claude has had a lot of problems. It's still 99% uptime, but they have had lots of degraded performance. They've also had double usage for the last week. They've had an influx of subscribers coming from ChatGPT. So I think they're not really used to being popular. It's only in the last couple of weeks that people will be like, ooh, Claude. They're not built for that. They don't have servers for 900 million people like OpenAI do. They have servers for 30 million, 40 million people. So when 3-4 million new people join, that's like a 10% bump. So for them, it's like, oh shit. But at the same time, they decided to give people double free access and double access. Like, that's a choice. I use both Codex and Claude Code. This is how I do it. So I use both Codex like a colleague, very helpful, and Claude Code like a senior engineer. So you can have chats with Codex, and Codex wants to work with you, and Claude Code is the senior. Yeah, so I use them both for different tasks. The other thing is that you get a lot more usage on Codex. Like, you just don't really need to worry about usage limits at all. Whereas on Claude Code, you still do, even on the $200 a month. Thoughts on Sora 2 being taken away? Covered it at the beginning of the live. So I think, very briefly, personally, don't care, don't use it. It's not even available in the UK, so the only way for me to use it was VPN, so I don't personally care. What's more interesting here is that it shows OpenAI are starting to focus. So Fujisimo has told them that they need to stop getting distracted by side quests and start to focus. I think we're going to be seeing across the organization, across the products, less of the random features, less of the random releases that they do, because they're always releasing some new cool thing. It's like, oh, you can do image, oh, you can do music. They added a music thing, didn't they? Or was that Google? They're always adding random crap, and they're being told now, stop it. And I think Sora is one of the casualties of that. However, Sora was way behind the Chinese labs. It's mainly interesting because it's showing a shift in OpenAI's direction, and I don't think that many people are going to care that much about Sora 2 itself. What happens when we can run a lot on the edge, in your opinion? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be amazing. We're moving in that direction. The problem with that, though, is for our edge devices, okay, so some context, edge AI is the ability to run AI on our local devices. But instead of what we do now, I have the ChatGPT app, I have the Claude app on here. When I prompt it, when I ask it something, it will send that up to the servers, probably in Europe for me, get an answer from the AI and send it back. So that's how we use most of our artificial intelligence. There's local AI, when you install a model on a computer, generally a powerful computer at home on your desktop. And then we have edge AI, putting it on devices like this, sticking it in your car, maybe a little pin. OpenAI and other manufacturers are looking to make other form factors, putting it in glasses, etc. That is edge AI, so it's on the edges. You need really, really small models that can fit onto these edge devices. And you can actually run a local model on your telephone. You can use something called locally AI, run local models on your iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and it's pretty good. I think it's a very exciting development in AI. I think there's a few factors at play here. Devices are becoming more expensive because GPUs and now RAM, memory, basically, is being bought up in bulk. For the next few years, they've already got the contracts by the AI companies to put in their data center. The more of that RAM, more of those GPUs that are going into the data centers, the less of there is to put inside our devices. What we're seeing is start to bite. So like games consoles, normally with games consoles like the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, etc., they are now midway or past midway through their life cycle. So normally we'd see the price of the games consoles dropping. And so PlayStation 5 should be getting cheaper. The opposite is happening. This is the first time this has ever happened, as far as I know. The PlayStation 5 is now more expensive to buy now than it was at launch. Bit wild. And we're seeing things like the Steam machine, a video game computer being made by Steam. It was meant to come out early 2026. It's been pushed back. They didn't announce the price, and now it looks like that price is escalating because of the RAM shortage, the GPU shortage, because of the AI companies. So that's going to have an impact on devices, on telephones. It hasn't yet on things like iPhones because of the way the supply chains work. If I am Apple building iPhones, I have bought my RAM, I've bought my chips, I've bought GPUs for the next couple of years, get into contracts with those manufacturers, and I've got them on delivery time schedules, and I've paid them for those future chips. What's going to happen now when they start to renegotiate for the next round of iPhones or the next round after that is the prices will have gone up because the AI companies are gobbling everything up. I think that's going to be a limiting factor for AI edge because we're going to see a plateau in terms of how powerful our local hardware is. There are ways around this like quantization, making the models smaller, more efficient, but there is going to be a hardware throttle like we have not seen before. The other reason why it might not push forward as fast as we think is because the AI companies don't really want that. They want you using their services in the cloud. This is why China's models are fascinating, because China open sources pretty much all their models. You can download them and run them on your computer. One of the reasons they do this is to destabilize the American companies, because if ChatGPT is saying, oh, you need to pay us for your subscription, or you need to pay us for every time you use the API. It comes from this API here. Whereas the Chinese are saying, nah, it's fine. Just download it, stick it on your computer, and that's it. You don't need to pay anything for the API cost. You don't need to pay anything for your subscription. You can run it locally. That destabilizes the closed source model of the American labs. And the Chinese labs are able to do that because they are state sponsored, and every tech company in China has something called golden shares. Basically, the Chinese government has a stake, like a physical equity stake inside of every company. So they can subsidize it, use that as a soft power move to destabilize the American companies, which, considering how much money is being put into American AI right now, pretty smart move. And you can get a lot of goodwill outside of the developed West. Europe and America will still keep using OpenAI, but the developing world, where they might not have the budget to pay for this API revenue or $200 a month Claude Code subscription, they can use a Chinese model that is almost as good, but they can do it locally for a fraction of the cost. So it's a soft power move from China as well to show the rest of the world outside of America and Western Europe, hey, we're here. We understand that the Americans are being greedy and they're taking all of your money by charging you insane amounts for AI. We won't. So they are playing a stunner of a game right now. It's also where all the RAM and GPUs are manufactured. So they're in a good place. I'm very bullish on Chinese AI. What's your opinion on Cursor? I love Cursor and I still have Cursor. I have stopped using it. I need to stop paying them, really. I think Cursor's in a really weird place right now because I kind of stuck between what I used to say is start your vibe coding journey with Lovable. Lovable, I'll show you what it looks like. So if you've never vibe coded before, Lovable gives you an interface which looks like this. It looks like ChatGPT, and you type in, hey, I want to build an alarm clock app or whatever, and you press go, done, and it will build that app for you. Very simple. Cursor doesn't look like that. Cursor looks like an IDE. So let me pull up an image because I can't show you. There we go. So Cursor looks like this when you first open it up. That's not as intuitive looking. That is terrifying looking. For people who are just starting to vibe code, they open this up and they're like, no way. So what I used to say is you start with something like Lovable or AI Studio Build Mode, which is kind of like Lovable but free. You start here, AI Studio Build Mode or Lovable. Then when you feel a bit more comfortable with things like the terminal, local deployment, and GitHub, then you can go to Cursor. And then once you're feeling comfortable with Cursor, you can move to the big daddy, which is Claude Code. However, Claude released a desktop app, Codex are advertising above Claude. So you can download this, which is claude.com/download. There we go, download for Mac OS. This gives you the ability to use the Claude app on your desktop. And it looks like, which again is nice and easy to use. So you have 3 tabs. You have chat, you have Cowork, and you have code. And this is what code looks like now inside of the app. Just a chat box. So that looks less intimidating than using Cursor. So Cursor is really powerful. You can use it with any model, including their Composer model. They've got their own model, which is very good. With code, you can only use Claude Code. You can only use the Claude models, Opus 4.6 or Sonnet 4.6 at the moment. This Claude Code is also quite expensive. You're going to be paying $100, $200 a month. But I think the problem is Cursor is kind of falling in the middle of really easy to use beginner apps like Lovable or powerful workhorses like Claude Code. And Cursor's kind of sitting in the middle trying to work out where it lives. I still use it, not as much as I used to because I'm doing most via Claude Code directly, either here or in the terminal. But I do wonder what their future is going to be because they are kind of squished. Cursor is a fork. It's basically a version of something called VS Code. You can download VS Code for free and add the Claude Code extension into VS Code. And you've kind of got a version of Cursor, which is better than Cursor. I say this as somebody who loves Cursor, so this is hard for me. They need to work out what they're doing because they're going to get crushed in the middle otherwise between these 2 options. Is your course free? Yes. If you go to aiwithkyle.com, there are a bunch of courses here. There's one about how to start a business using AI, which I think is the most sensible thing you can do right now because jobs are looking fragile. There is a course here, mini masterclass on how to start giving workshops to businesses, which is a good way to make money. I charge about $2,000 an hour for training businesses. And then there's a bunch of other courses. I've also got a catalog which has over 100 mini playbooks. These are all written by hand over the last couple of years in my newsletter. And this is all available for free on the website if you head to aiwithcarl.com. And if you join up, there's some more free stuff in there as well. Is Claude still having free access? Yes, it has double access for the next week. Thoughts on vibe coding? It's amazing. And it's getting better all the time. It's one of the things that I highly recommend people try. And if you are feeling intimidated by it, I put together a guide. This is a Claude Code starter guide. I'm not seeing the other one. I put together a guide last Friday on how to just get started. You're going to use AI Studio build mode. This is free. You do not need a credit card to get started. You're going to come here. It's a Google application. Click on build mode on the left-hand side and then type in whatever you want to build. Just get started. From there, I did a presentation earlier in the week about how you actually get to deployment. The other things you need, like a backend using Supabase, GitHub for version control, Vercel for deployment, Stripe for payment processing. I did a presentation on that, available on YouTube and in the newsletter. But vibe coding, just get started and you'll be able to build cool things. Don't you think that Anthropic's double usage was a brilliant move? I think, but we're seeing this. So for me, as somebody who pays $200 a month for Claude, no, I'm annoyed because for the last couple of weeks, it's been an absolute mess because of the double usage. But as somebody who understands what they're doing, which is, hey, we have a bunch of new users, let's roll out the welcome carpet 100%. So there's another week of double usage. Codex gave people double usage a few weeks ago, so they're just copying that playbook. I think it's a good idea. It annoys me, but I understand why they're doing it. Is AI model creation ultimately a race to the bottom? They'll all be the same in a few years. Yes. So what is increasingly important is not the model. Increasingly, the models are all very good. And for the majority of tasks that we do, the models are good enough. We find problems when we start to push them to their frontiers, but like we used to not be able to write emails and do very basic tasks. That is solved. Like that's easy now. So the models are all very good. So Claude, Opus, Gemini 3 and ChatGPT 5.4, very good models. Increasingly, the kind of delta, the difference between the different models is not that important. For the big three models, I'm not going to talk about Grok. I know somebody will start yelling at me and telling me that Grok is one to watch, but no. The big three models are all really good right now. What is the difference is something called a harness. So this is Ethan Mollick. Harnesses are what let the power of AI models do real work. Like horse harnesses, take the raw power of the horse and lets it pull a cart or a plow. A harness is a system that lets the AI use tools, take actions, and complete multi-step tasks on its own. Apps come with a harness. Claude on the website has a harness that lets Claude Opus 4.6 do web searches and write code, but also has instructions about how to approach various problems like creating spreadsheets or doing graphic design work. Claude Code has an even more extensive harness. It gives Claude 4.6 Opus a virtual computer, now a physical computer as of yesterday, a web browser, a code terminal, and the ability to string these together to actually do stuff, like researching, building, and testing your new website from scratch. So this is increasingly what is important. It is not the model, it is the harness. It's what we connect it to. And this is why things like Claude Code and Codex from ChatGPT are so important, because they are the harness. It's the tool that you put it in, which can access other tools. It can act on your behalf. It can plan. It can go through multi-step processes. And in the case of something like Claude Code, you can give it a big, complicated project. It will chunk that down into its to-dos. It will create a project plan, and it will systematically work through them, including testing that things are working, and then report back to you 40 minutes, several hours later with the results of its work. That's the harness. It's not the model. Recently, for example, Gemini 3.1 Pro came out and it beat all of the benchmarks. It's like the smartest model. The problem Google have is they don't have very powerful harnesses. They have an anti-gravity harness, but it's not as good as Claude Code, and it's not as good as ChatGPT Codex, which is why people don't really use it. So the raw strength of the model is increasingly less important. It is what you connect it to do the work for you. That's what matters. So yeah, your initial question was, will they all just come together? Will they'll all be the same in a few years? Yeah, it's already happening. The model is becoming smarter isn't that important anymore. It's what can they do? I mean, crudely, it's not the size that matters, it's what you do with it. We're seeing that increasingly with AI. And that's why 2026 is so exciting, because we're finally hooking these really smart models up to harnesses that get on and do the work with us. I have various agents right now on different computers and devices just doing stuff for me. That was not the case 6 months ago. Really cool. Cursor also has desktop control. I didn't know that, Mike. And they've got that feature I saw, which is the demo. It can record demos, self-interacting with the app, and then use those demos for debugging. It's like, oh, that's really cool. That is something I have been using it for, but I haven't been using Cursor as much. I need to check it out again. Lovable is good, but they're trying to trap all in their platform. So it's a trade-off. Lovable is a closed garden. So when you use Lovable and Lovable Cloud in particular, it sets up a super base for you and it works out deployment. So it saves you having to deal with any of that, which when you are building something for the first time is really useful. Because normally when you build something, let's say you've generated some HTML, some CSS, some JavaScript using a tool. If you are just beginning, you don't know how to deploy that. You don't know how to compile it if it needs compiling. You don't know how to actually see what it is that you've built. Lovable kind of deals with all of that. It allows you to deploy on a little virtual machine and it shows you a preview. You don't even have to think about it. So it's very simple. And then when it comes to adding things like a backend, so let's say adding a database where you're going to keep usernames and passwords, that is something that if you're setting up manually, the first time you do it is a bit of a pain. You need to work out how to connect to Supabase or Firebase. You need to work out what your database schema is going to look like. Obviously, AI can help you with all of this, but you kind of need to know what you're aiming towards. Lovable just does it using Lovable Cloud. The trade-off of that is there's a bit of lock-in. Getting back out of that is a pain. So that's why I recommend Lovable as a really good place to start, just to see what you can build with vibe coding. Because a lot of people, once they build their first project, they realize like, oh, so I can just make stuff. It's like, yeah, it's cooler. And it unlocks that excitement. I think Lovable is fantastic for that. Use other tools and you're going to have more control over what you build in. You're going to have more control over if it's going to be an Android app or an iOS app or a web app. You have more control over what backend you're going to use, how you're going to deploy it, etc. But that is all additional complexity that you want to avoid when you're building your first application. So Lovable, fantastic for beginners. Later, if you need more control, if you want more control, sure, you'd probably move on to something else. It's always a trade-off with these things. 2026, Java or Python? I mean, learning to code right now is interesting to do, but I wouldn't do it if you want a job in particular, but I'd go for Python out of those two. Oh, could you please explain the steps on setting up computer access that they released yesterday? Yeah, here we go. I happen to have a presentation on that, Jan. No problem. So it's not in the Claude desktop. Sorry, it's not in the Claude web version. So if you go into settings on Claude.ai, you're not going to find it. What you need to do is download the app, click on this one, get apps and extensions, and download this one. They're calling it Cowork, but it's just their app. Download the Claude app. You can also get it from claude.com/download. You get the application, you log in there, and then in the settings of the application, that's where you can toggle it on. Specifically, click on settings, then desktop app general, then computer use, toggle it on. So you have to do it in the app. Is it hard to move my project cursor to Claude Code? No, it depends how much you've built, but basically if you're in Cursor, you connect to GitHub and then you connect Claude Code to GitHub. They'll be in the same repo, so Claude Code will be able to see the same information. So the same with Lovable. If you've built something in Lovable, you connect it to, put up a project, connect it to GitHub. This one is not connected. Once it's connected to GitHub, you can connect other tools. So you can connect Claude Code, Cursor, VS Code to GitHub, and they're able to access all of those files. So that's going to be the main way. So Deb, first connect Cursor to GitHub and connect Claude Code to GitHub, the same GitHub, and then go to Claude Code and say, hey, I've just given you access to a new repo, a new GitHub repository. I built it in Cursor. Can you review the files, have a look, see if there's anything additional you need? How can we move this project over? And it will be able to help you with that. Mike's got an even better one. GitHub for agent handoff. I'm not sure what Claude has that Cursor does not have. It's really just the harness. So using the Claude Code harness is pretty powerful. But you can also use Claude Code inside of Cursor as well. There is a extension and you can run it through the terminal in Cursor. So Cursor gives you the IDE so you're able to see everything, which is a big plus if you want that additional power. I've been blabbing for a long time, an hour and a half, so I'm going to finish up. Make sure, if you are not already, that you are subscribed at aiwithkyle.com. Totally free to join. There's a whole bunch of free courses. You can join the community and you'll get written summaries of what we cover in the live. So it gives you a way to get access to the material without having to watch an hour and a half live every single day, which I understand is a bit of a commitment. For example, I did a Claude Code starter guide. This was last week. So you can either watch it on YouTube or you can access the full kind of presentation inside the newsletter, and that's sent out every single day as well. I also give you the option to download the slides. You can grab the PDF slides. There you go. Claude Code. That's not the slides. That is all available for free inside the newsletter. So make sure you are signed up. It's aiwithkyle.com. Totally free to sign up. And hopefully I'll see a bunch of you in there as well. Deb says, thank you. You're very welcome. Hopefully that's useful. If you run into trouble, just come back to chat and we'll try and work it out. But with these kind of things, just ask AI. I know it sounds facetious, but your question was, how do I move from Cursor to Claude Code? Just ask Claude. It will tell you how to do it. Morning, Lyra. How are you? Where are you on YouTube? Same username for YouTube. I am Kyle Barmer. It should pop up. Or just my name, Kyle Barmer. Nearly at 20,000. That's cool. Give some pointers for heavy users like myself. What kind of, for starting a business or for AI, like coding? Happy to help. If you've got a question, Jeff says the agents can do a lot of work. This is the interesting thing about Claude computer use. So somebody commented this in chat the other day. I put out a video saying, hey, look, Claude computer can now take control of your computer and do anything you would do on a computer for you. It's going to click around, open up programs, move information around. It's quite slow. But if it's a task that you do on a computer, it can now be done by Claude computer use. If your job is mainly sitting at a computer, that might be a problem. As companies start to realize, this could definitely be a problem because now the computer can just do that job. However, if you're starting a business, this is really exciting because it basically means you can have a 24/7 employee working for you as if they're sitting at a computer doing that kind of stuff for you for $100 a month. One person in my chat said something interesting. Wait, so if I have a work from home job, I can basically give that job to computer usage and then I can go out. Yeah, I guess you could. If you fine-tuned it and tested it enough, you could give your current 9-to-5 job to something like Claude Code and let it go for it. You'd have to set up guardrails and manual checks, but it could send you things while you're out. It could send you on your telephone, like, check this for me, and then you approve it and it sends it off. So you could outsource your own job right now. I had not thought about, and my initial reaction was that doesn't seem very ethical. But then I remembered the companies are about to do that anyway. As soon as the companies realize they can outsource the jobs to AI, they're going to do it. So is it any less ethical for an employee to outsource their own job right now, use that extra time, use that extra energy to start up something themselves, to kind of get ahead of this thing? I'm okay with being cheeky because the companies are about to do it anyway. The corporation is going to do it to you. So do it to them first. Build a better future for yourself using your extra time. Very cheeky. Corporate environment is so robotic already, so no difference there. Yeah, basically. CodeDreamer says, I ran out of my Claude very fast. Claude is token hungry. You might need the $100 a month. You might need $200 a month. I don't know what you're on right now. But if you are building, it becomes an investment, really. The other thing you can do is use Codex. Codex has much more generous usage. Again, you'll need to pay, but on a $20 a month Codex plan, you get a lot more usage than any Claude plan. So I highly recommend it. In terms of free coding tools, Anti-Gravity has some free usage. AI Studio has some free usage, so using Gemini. But when you're building, this is now a cost that needs to be paid. You can get free if you really want free. Set up a become a Claude community ambassador, run an event for them. So if you do that, they will give you event sponsorship, API credits, networking, swag, and recognition. So you could use that to secure some API credits. It might be a bit too much work, but it's an option as well. How did your Rate Expo go? What's my Rate Expo? I'm not sure what that is. I watched a demo where the user used Claude to do an old school RuneScape tutorial. It took a long time because you can automate certain jobs and tasks you don't really want to do. So was that using Claude computer use, which came out yesterday? It is slow, agonizingly slow, but it only came out a day ago. It will get faster. This is a preview of what we're going to have. And what they do is when you give it a task, it will have 3 different ways to do it. I actually covered this yesterday. So the first thing it would try to do is through a connector. If there is an existing connector with Gmail or your calendar or whatever, it will use that. So it will use a connector or MCP or API. It will use a direct connection so the computer can talk to the computer, instantaneous. It will try to do that first. If it can't do that, it will try to do the task in a browser. So it will use the Claude in Chrome extension to take control of Chrome and do the task. If it cannot do that, then the final fallback is screen control. So the ability for it to see what's on your screen, move the mouse around, click on things, typing, navigating any application. It's slow. That will speed up though. Jeff says, yeah, these companies are going to do all they can to take and replace labor. So what's going to happen is if your job is at a computer, your employee is just going to start recording what you do on your screen all day. They're probably already doing it. There are things like Microsoft Recall, which is exactly for this. It takes periodic screenshots to create a searchable photographic memory of everything seen on the screen. Now, the reason this exists and the reason companies want this kind of thing is they can record everything you do on your screen during the day. They can use that to train an AI. That AI is going to do your job. What we're seeing here is an incredibly powerful tool if you use it on your own projects, if you use it on your own businesses. It is also the thing that's going to remove jobs, because suddenly anything that can be done on screen can be watched and it can be replicated by a bot. It's getting faster and faster. We could do this previously with automation. We had screen clickers. But the fact is now it can do it at scale. And it can just watch a video, it can watch screenshots of your work over hundreds of hours, and it can compile the information it requires to do that work. Previously, we had to programmatically decide, okay, then you click here, then you click on this one, then you drag this in, and then you're going to copy this. You had to programmatically write out the rules. That's no longer the case because the AI is going to work all of that out for you. And companies will do this as soon as possible. How to connect sync Claude Code to Claude Desktop. So wait, you're using Claude Code in the web and you want to sync it to the desktop. Is that right? Is it, what is the command? Is it sync or handoff? Why am I Googling that? So Claude. Yeah, there is a command. It's not sync though. Is it handoff? Yeah. I don't have my terminal open yet, so I don't know it off by heart, but I think use handoff. I do need to finish because it's been an hour and a half. Thank you guys. I will see you for another live. Again, make sure that you're subscribed over at AI with Kyle. You can join the community. There's a free newsletter every single day, bunch of courses and a catalogue of different playbooks. Just a load of stuff on there. Hopefully that is useful for you. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day.